What's up with it?
What's up, my people?
Hey. What's happening? Everybody straight?
Another episode, 5-session podcast. We're on episode 6 of season 4. If y'all can tell, we got a special guest with us today, a different face, Mr. Stephen Carter. Welcome to the show, Mr. Carter.
Thanks for having me, fellas. I greatly appreciate it again. Giving me the opportunity to be on your platform and had this great conversation with you guys.
The great S. Carter. What's happening?
Yes, sir. That's it. You got to put great in front of that.
Yeah, yes, sir. What's happening, my man? Glad to have you out.
Thank you, man.
Benji, how that week starting off, my brother? It's only Tuesday, so when we come on the show, we asked about the week, but it's only Tuesday. So what's been going on so far?
Man, I could write a book. Just all kind of stuff, man.
Already?
Tuesday, man. You know what I'm saying? Phone calls, phone calls, that, this meeting, talking to this person. It's like it'll have you like this, but it's coming together though. So we ain't complaining, but it's straight. But gonna make it happen, man. Just out there trying to make it happen. So it's coming together like butt cheeks.
Benji about that money.
Yes, sir.
We're trying to get to making the money move. That's what's up.
Cash.
Stephen, tell us about it, man. How your week started off so far?
It started off productive, to say the least, man. I'm in the mortgage industry as a wholesale AE, and we're approaching the end of the month, so things are, a little tedious. It's a short month, and a lot of tough phone calls you have to have at the end of the month, and things don't fund accordingly, and blah blah blah. But other than that, man, I'm with the grind. This is what we do as men. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
We just go at it.
It's a fact. We make it happen, and you know what? My week has started off good. The weekend was crazy. I ain't gonna go into all the details, but the weekend was crazy for you, boy. But we here. This episode is very, very powerful because it's about fatherhood, y'all. It's about fatherhood, and this is a huge topic for us because everybody on this panel is a father,
right?
And we've been a father for a minute. You know what I'm saying? So we got some older kids. You know what I'm saying? And as of last week, I have a 21-year-old now. My oldest is 21. So we're gonna get through all that because parenting a 21-year-old and parenting a 2-year-old, woo,
totally different.
Totally
different.
It's
like years.
So we're going to cover the gambit today because we got a lot of advice to give. I know some of my counterparts out there, some of my homies, they having kids now and they kids is 5 and 6. I'm like, yeah, but
bless your heart.
Long way to go. 5 and 6.
Give them grace. Give them grace because that's, yeah.
5 and 6 is fun. I'll take that again. I'll take 5 and 6 again.
I don't know.
I'll take 5 and 6 again because when you tell them to do something at 5 or 6, my kids, they did it at 5 or 6. When they get older, I'll do it, but why? We'll get into that though. We're gonna get into all that. Okay, so we're gonna start off with the basics, y'all. What does being a father mean to you? So, Mr. Carter, what does being a father mean to you, man?
So when you use the word father, I guess I have to open this way since it's sort of impromptu and it's just based on pure experience. The Latin root of the word father is pater, like patera, Peter. And that means to establish a pattern or the patron. Right. That's where the word patron comes from. So being a father is not just covering and protecting and providing, is actually establishing and showing patterns to these kids that they can live by.
Right.
So with that being said, when I was 19, when I had my first child, I was not thinking on that wavelength. I was trying to get as much coochie as I could and without having to deal with no abortion because I didn't want to have to deal with the guilt
lift your hands
from God about that abortion thing, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But as I grew into, fatherhood as a whole, it taught me a lot about myself. It stretched me as a man.
Right.
So yeah, being a father, man, in a nutshell, it's basically about establishing patterns, patronizing kids, more importantly, and being a role model for them in a sense, even if it's for a shorter period of time, because some of us, I don't know for any guys, but I'm in a situation where a couple of my kids I didn't have around all the time.
Right.
They had different mothers.
Right.
But there's still patterns and things like that that can be established in that process. So that's what being a father is really all about for me.
That's dope, man. That's dope. I ain't mad at your foot.
I'm gonna let Benji follow that. That's a lot to follow. Go ahead, Benji.
Man, what it meant to me initially, man, like coming out of the circumstances I came out of, being a father meant being there. You get what I'm saying? Like, I didn't know that. I didn't have that growing up. I was kind of, the uncles and the TV, whatever. So being a father to me was like, be there for your seeds. And that was important to me. So I put my strength, everything I was, into that concept. I don't care what's going on. I don't care what you're dealing with. Be there for them kids. You get what I'm saying? You created them. When, you ain't going off doing whatever. You know what I'm saying? So I was trying to get in that structure space right there. And that kind of expanded me too into other aspects of what father meant. Then you get into the protector and all of those other things. But for me, man, ultimately at that, thinking about it from the younger years, was simply just being a father that was there, that was present, and that was important to me. And so that would, as you get older, your concepts change. But in the beginning, yeah, that's what it was for me. Just be there, man. Messed up, whatever you are, whatever you got going on, it ain't the kids' fault. You get what I'm saying? Like, they still got to eat. They still got to this. They still got to that. All of those things. So that was my thing for me.
That's dope. And you said it. I mean, that's the first thing. You have to be present. You know what I'm saying? Or you have to be a presence.
Right.
Because, like Steven said earlier, there are some points in your life where you become a father and maybe you're not in a relationship with that young lady and you can't be there every day, but that does not mean you can't still be there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can call, you can reach out, you can do a lot of other things, especially nowadays with all this technology we have.
Right.
Like, don't have
Zoom, FaceTime, everything, right?
Yeah, really don't have a reason. And for me, I became a father at a young age. So, for me, it was exciting, just as crazy as it sounds, because I became a father at 20. So it's like I'm still actually growing up myself and have a lot of growing to do. But it was different for me because I was one of those people who were growing up. I wanted to have like 10 kids, right? That was
I think many of us were groomed like that, to have a bunch of kids, right?
Like I always said that.
Multiply.
Yeah, I always told my mom, like, I want to have a lot of kids. So when I found out I was having, a child, my first thing was, okay, excitement. And, the second thought is, okay, girl or boy, and all this stuff that that you go through. I'm not even thinking about the responsibility that I'm going to have to.
That don't even enter your mind, right? Like, that ain't even there unless you're in a spot, like me, where you didn't have that. You was like, that's all you knew. And then you learned that from Bill Cosby.
Heathcliff Huxtable.
Huxtable.
We didn't know Bill Cosby. We knew Huxtable.
We knew Heathcliff. And all we knew was Heathcliff was there. So like that resonated with me. But I mean, it was crazy, man. It was crazy.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because for a lot of us, it may not be the central, idea of what we had of fatherhood, but we can look back on shows that we grew up watching, and that's where we got some of our idea of what fatherhood was and what it meant and the things that you were responsible for.
Right.
So, that tied into, how we became fathers and what we were as we became fathers because of what we saw. On TV, at home, in your neighborhood, in your family, all of that contributes. So, for me, being a father meant everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew when I first held my son in my arms that my life had completely changed. Right. All the foolishness that Ken was into and Ken was thinking about had to go immediately. It had to leave. It couldn't exist anymore because I was responsible for this little life. So, from that point forward, all of my kids just mean everything to me. So, and I mean, that's the only way I can describe it. It's everything you guys said and more, you know what I'm saying? So, but while we're talking about that, the next question that I wanted to kind of touch on is ask you guys, when did you become a father? Because I think that that's pertinent to the conversation as well. So, Stephen, when did you become a father?
I first became a father at 19, man. I just turned 19. I was in school in Missouri. Ended up dropping out because of the pregnancy. And make a long story short, if I'm being honest, it was a one-night stand situation, man. And
Right.
Instead of, pushing that whole abortion issue, because at the end of the day, like, you don't, again, let's take religion out of the equation. In my mind, pushing abortion was actually running away from my responsibility. That's the way I saw it.
Right.
I saw it as if I'm grown enough to put my penis in between this woman's legs, I'm grown up to take care of that child.
Right.
So that's why about 90% of the reason why I decided to go and keep the kid and drop out of school and do what I had to do. So I was 19 years old, Missouri. I was in a place I knew no one. I actually migrated to St. Louis after I left Columbia. I didn't know anyone there. I knew just her, and that's what had happened, man.
So, Stephen, you went rando commando.
Yeah.
And you created a life, but the big part about it is you took the responsibility for it from day one and said, you know what, I'm not running from this, and that's big, man.
Like, that's huge.
That's huge.
Because I was supposed to have been aborted. That's the key. Like, back in '78, when I was born in '79, my mother always told me the story that she was strung out on Sherm or PCP.
Right.
And she told me that I was supposed to have been aborted because she didn't want to have a kid that had, mental issues.
Mm-hmm.
So that always stuck with me. And she told me that at a young age. So I was like, damn, like,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Let me take care of mine. Let me do this.
Let me do the best that I can for mine. I mean, I'm gonna give this child an opportunity. You know what I mean? And that's the mindset that I took on even at 19 years old as a kid, for the most part.
Hey, shout out to the being responsible, man. We got to celebrate that type of stuff. I know those times were crazy, but I mean, man, to hold it together and at least try to do what's right. You know what I mean? Right. I think that outweighs pretty much everything, so to speak.
It does, especially when you're going through that phase in your life where I think at 19. Because they all grew up in Compton, and everybody at that time, we were just trying to get as many pieces of panties as we could.
Right.
That the rap videos were showing that. That's all we seen on TV. That's all we heard in the neighborhood. And I think what I ended up doing, though, man, like I went rampant like that because you mentioned, man, raw commando, whatever you said. I was actually trying to find myself in these women, man. I was trying to seek validation.
A lot of dudes are.
I could.
A lot of dudes are.
Yeah, they don't realize it.
You found yourself in one.
Some would
literally
call that
literally
the woman that's start of your manhood, so to speak. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's the concept. You're trying to connect with somebody, trying to mate with somebody, find somebody. That's what it's all centered around the idea of love, but we didn't even know what that was. You know what I'm saying? No. We just knew to clap. You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
All right, Benji, tell us about you, man. When did you become a father? How old were you, man?
I was 19, around 19, 20 years old, but I was coming from my situation in Texas, which was like crazy. Like, and then coming out here to Cali, like I'm still trying to find myself. I don't even know who I am, but I know what I'm used to. I'm used to doing this and this and, all of the things associated with, what I'm saying, coming from the hood. I know that. So even though I'm out here, I'm still trying to find that. So, in that process, man, I kind of found myself in church, so to speak. And then got with a young lady and, trying to do the right thing. And then boom, you get what I'm saying? You got a baby on the way. Just, so you're going to try to do the right thing, stick with her and do this and do that and abide by the rules and all of that. And my daughter comes, man. It was like, it was interesting because I still didn't know myself or anything like that. But I knew like, I'm going to have a daughter. And it was a shock when I first found out. It was like, because you hear about it, but you've never experienced any of this.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like you see it on TV, you see it, if you didn't grow up in that type of house, you know what I'm saying, where people having babies, you know what I'm saying? It's all new to you. So now you got to walk it out. And so that was interesting to me. So but But that was a crazy space, though. I mean, I got through it. My daughter loves me to death, so I got through it, man. I handled it. So it was crazy, man. But it was dope. It was a great learning experience for me. That's kind of what my becoming a man kind of really set in for me as well.
Okay, see, I think we all along the same lines because my first child was born when I was 20.
Mm-hmm.
So, young. Like I said, initially it's the excitement of I'm about to have a child, and then it's the fear set in of wow, I'm about to have a child.
I'm about to be, yeah.
I'm gonna tell y'all this story. This is a true story. Now, at the time, I'm a student at University of Texas in Arlington. I'm in my architectural class and architectural lecture. So it's 300 people in that class. I'm in the back chilling. My mind is I'm going to the gym as soon as I get out of this class.
Right.
And I'm saying I'm going here to get busy, get some buckets. And we had pagers. So my pager goes off 911 with a number I don't know. So
right.
Hey, who is this? Text me 911. Let me go, to the payphone. You know what I'm saying? And then call his number. And it changed my life that day, bro. Like, I'm serious.
Now the emergency changed his life.
I'm serious, bro. Like, I pick up the phone, my then girlfriend, she was on the phone crying. And I was like, so initially it's like, wow, what's wrong? You know what I'm saying? What's going on? She was like, I'm pregnant. I was like, okay. Like, hold on. Say that again.
What happened? What's going on? Shock? Was it shock?
Shock. You know what I'm saying? Then I was like, okay, I'm about to be a father.
Right.
So, but then it was like this wealth of emotions came over me. So I'm walking in the classroom in the middle of the lecture, got my backpack and picked up all my stuff. And my partner was like, where you going? I said, I'm going home. Like, I couldn't think of nothing else. So I got in the car and I drove, the 20-something minutes from Arlington to Lancaster. And I got in the house and I fell asleep. And I was sleeping about 5 hours. I always laugh about that because you know how it was when you were little and you got a whooping. You know what I'm saying? You took that whooping nap and you went to sleep.
Right.
Hours. I really felt like I had got a whooping for real. So when I woke up, I called her and I'm like, okay, whew, that was a dream. Like, I'm tripping. Like, so what's going on? How was your day? She was like, you must didn't think I was like serious early. Like, I'm pregnant. I'm like, oh. So yeah, I mean, from that point, it was just like, okay, whatever I got going on now, the focus shifts from Ken to this baby.
The baby's right.
Coming, male or female,
right?
Whatever happens, this baby got to come first.
Now you grew up with a mom and a dad.
Facts.
So how did that process go for you? Because now you're finding out from her. But you got another dynamic. You got to talk to mom and dad and all that. I didn't have that growing up. So, or when I had mine like that wasn't the spectrum. So I didn't have nobody to really tell. But how did that go for you in that moment? Can you recall that?
My mom and dad are cool as a fan. And people know my parents. They know they cool as a fan. My mom was like, oh, wow. So, so we just better be ready. Better get ready. And my dad was like, he's so cool. He was like, you know what? Hey, player, that's on you, man. You got you know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it was. Like, they didn't scream on me. They didn't, they weren't upset. They were like, well, ain't nothing you can do about it now, but take care of it. So, just use these next few months before that child comes to prepare yourself and, go from there. So luckily for me, I have a mom and a dad have always had that, was born into that. And matter of fact, they still married to this day, almost 50 years later. So like, that's all I've known. So the dynamic was different for me. So when I looked at shows like we talked about, like, like with Bill Cosby, with Heathcliff Huxtable, you know what I'm saying? Like, I dig that household because I kind of grew up in that same dynamic where I had mom, good job, dad, good job, taking care of kids. So that's the way I thought, well, I need to get a good job so I can take care of my kids.
Do the same thing, right?
It never was a thought in my mind that I'm not going to be here for this kid.
Right.
Or like Steven said, or thinking about abortion, that never crossed my mind.
Right.
That was never an option. I was always going to make sure that I took care of that. I had the kids and I took care of them. Even if the mother didn't want the kid, I would take care of the kid.
Right.
That was always my thinking about any time I would have a kid. So luckily for me in this situation, like my wife,
that's a stability.
Like, you know what I'm saying? We made it work from that point, and we still together and we have other kids. So, you know, that's not everybody's story though.
Right. But I mean, it's significant because it shows us how all of the different aspects of fatherhood. I mean, you get into motherhood, but we're talking about fatherhood tonight. The different aspects of it where it comes in. Like we have issues, we have things we got to think about. We could have walked away. We could have did this. We could have did that. Everybody has their choice, their options, or whatever they're going to do. Now, Steve, my boy, was this the same thing for you? Like you had a mom and a pops you had to report to, or how was it? How did that go for you in that space?
No, man, it was actually a little bit of a polar opposite, actually. Again, you know, growing up in LA in that time, and I was ahead of the crack era.
Right.
You know, they were just kind of winding down and whatnot. But needless to say, my parents were not technically together. And at that time, when I found out that, you know, that we were pregnant, me and my dad wasn't even speaking because of some stuff that happened a couple years prior to.
Right.
So long story short, like I told you, it was a one night stand situation. Funny story.
Right.
I hope she ain't watching this. But
no, it's all right, man. She might catch up.
I caught myself going on a hot date, digging in. I think I was probably, you know, a few pumps in, and I stopped. Something stopped.
Didn't understand the pullout game then.
No, it wasn't even that. I pulled out immediately because I was like, this didn't feel right. And I don't want to tell y'all why on live air, but I pulled out.
Right. It's all good. See, I didn't know. I didn't know about the pullout game. See, I wasn't. Nobody schooled us on that. We didn't have a father. We didn't have no pops to tell you what your stroke count is. If it was 2, if it was 3, you know what I'm saying, 5, 55. You didn't understand that till you got a little older.
Right.
When you're 19 years old, as soon as you slide in, it's like,
woo. Right.
But, so I mean, that's significant. That's a whole nother story, though.
Yeah, man, that's crazy. Yeah, man. I actually I pulled out and I went to the restroom, finished, you know, doing my thing by myself. And I called myself being like, you know, we just need to be friends. I gave her that speech. You know, this is not what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And 2 weeks later, I went back home. I came back to California. I got a phone call like I'm pregnant. I'm like, it is 1999. Ain't nobody got no pregnancy test in 2 weeks. How you pregnant?
Right.
You know, I'm like, that's not possible. I remember looking at my mom because she heard the conversation and she was like, that bitch lying. She lying. Ain't no way on earth she pregnant. I got that whole thing. And then I got slapped upside my head while I was on the phone like, you big dummy. You know, that whole Sanford Son Lamont thing. And she was pregnant, bro. And the thing is, I never from the day, even with my mom, because my mom was like my greatest advocate, man. But that was the one time she didn't support the situation.
Right.
But I told myself, I'm like, well, shit, I'm not going to just abandon her. Let me find out. Because I really didn't understand. You take sex ed. We took sex ed in middle school when we was kids. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you experience it and you get that call, the first thing that sets in is like fear. For me, it was. Right. I got scared. I'm like, oh, shit, I got a kid coming. What do I do? Who do I talk to? How do I make this happen? And abortion wasn't nowhere near my thought process.
Right.
So it was you know, I didn't get the support that I thought I'd get, but I ended up going back to St. Louis, Missouri, after about a month or so and tried to, you know, reconcile a relationship, which didn't work, but I was still there with her.
Right.
Watching my child being born and take her to her appointments, things like that, while we arguing and everything, bro. It was a mess, but we
I mean, you had to do what you had to do.
You know what I mean?
I'm sure these situations are crazy for, I think, everybody involved, especially when you get to some of us who didn't have no stability.
Correct.
You get what I'm saying? It was just like, you just got to figure this out on your own. You get what I'm saying? Like, and either you was about it or you wasn't. Like,
that's it.
Either you doing it or you're not. Or what? And that's a harsh reality, but it's a reality for some of us.
It is. That's the stuff that makes you a man. If you don't mind me saying so, you know, we always like to say that man has something to do with your age and the hair on your chest and your beard. And I don't believe that, man.
Right.
I believe that being a man is solely based on a responsibility that you take it even at 12 years old. I know some 10, 12-year-old kids that's taking on grown ass man responsibilities.
Right.
10, 12-year-old kids that's taking on grown ass man responsibilities.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And I think you said something big though, man. It's like, you know, being able, even though you said, you know, it was a mess at the time, but being able to go to those appointments with her, being able to be there when your child was born, like that's big. Like
Yeah.
me, I brag all the time and say I have 3 and I was there at each one of their births. I was there to witness them being born.
Right,
I was
right,
there to cut
right.
their umbilical cord. Like I'm that type of dude where I was willing to put anything else aside when she made that phone call or when she say her water was broke. We gone. I'm there the
Right,
whole
right.
time.
Present.
I'm saying,
Present.
even though she screamed on me a few times, and you know,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
you know what I'm saying? One time, you know what I'm saying? I think my oldest son, you know, I'm young again, you know, so I think the Jeffersons was on TV. So
Right.
I'm holding her hand and you know, we doing you know, we doing that whole thing. But I'm looking at the Jeffersons though. She wanted me to look at her. So we have this funny joke when we joking around, we like, look at me, look at me. Because that's the way she did me. But you know what? It taught me a valuable lesson. So the next two, turn that TV off. Turn that TV off. Let me focus. You know what I'm saying? But that's what, you know, hey, again, being a father is all about learning, you know what I'm saying, as we go. Because I mean, I had a father, but I had never been through that process of birth and childbirth.
Exactly.
So I didn't know what to expect. So I'm just sitting there freestyling, just doing what I know how to do, which is not much.
Right.
Right. You just trying to figure it all out in the moment. Like I think I remember telling you this before, Kim, but there's a quote that says it talks about kids, and kids didn't realize that they were watching their parents grow up in the process as well. Like we were, even though we had kids, we were still growing up. Like, and you can't explain that to a 2-year-old, 3-year-old, 4-year-old. Like that's out of the question. Either they see you. That's why being present, I think, means more than anything. Because you're still watching me grow, and I can help you avoid some pitfalls. So to be there, that's why that was a stickler for me. Like to be there because some of the stuff I dealt with, it's like I don't want you to experience that. Right. Like you, because that was too traumatic. You probably can't handle that. You get what I'm saying? I don't know how you would react if so and so happened, you know, whatever. But that was a thing for me. So I mean, but being accountable, man, we here. We solid.
And I think the next question is something that we already kind of touched on was, you know, when you find out you were about to be a father, what went through your mind? And I think everybody's general consensus can say, because we were so young, fear. The fear of the unknown, because you know what holding a child feels like and being around a baby feels like, but this child belongs to you. You're responsible for it. You have to feed it. You have to change it. You have to help and be up at night or whatever the case may be, whatever that requires. Like, you know, these things are coming and you have never had to experience them. So, you know what I'm saying? For y'all, was it that fear of, wow, what am I going to do now?
In the beginning, for me, I would say,
it was a driving factor for me, because, you know, fear was never something that put me in a state of paralysis. I always call it a little bit of a shock value and would stall to kind of gather my thoughts. But if it was something I was fearful, like I always thought, like, if I don't fight whatever this is, it's gonna kill me. So I got to go at it.
Right.
So the fear is what drove me to say, well, damn it, you know, I was growing up to do the sex thing with her. I'm growing up to try to take care of this kid. You know what I'm saying? Right. And we found a way. There's no pamphlet or no manual. There's not even really, the Bible doesn't really even address a step-by-step way to become a parent. You know what I'm saying?
It doesn't.
So it's trial and error, you know. And you mentioned earlier that, you know, our kids get to see us grow up, and it's crazy how, you know, you're raising them, but they raising you too. You know?
It's like teachable moments all across the board.
Yeah.
All across the board. It's like I'm learning from you, you learning from me. It's like we're planting seeds along in the process. I know having sex is the idea of planting seeds, but our words, everything that we spewing out, everything we live in, everything we doing, it's literally a seed, because that's what ours is seeing. So even though mine got to see a life other than chaos and drama and crazy, they was able to see some peace, some structure. You get what I'm saying? And that, to me, that meant everything. You get what I'm saying? Like that, for me to be the one to bring that was dope for me.
That's
yeah. And see, for me, you know what I'm saying, to be able to look at my children now and them to be able to think and say, okay, well, there was never a day I didn't have clothes, I didn't have a roof over my head, I didn't have food. Like, you know, they look at that as something that's a given. Right. But I have to, you know, we have to explain to them that for everybody in life, that's not a given.
Facts.
Right.
So
that's very, very true.
Like, you know, you have to explain that to them. And like you said, you know, when we're growing, they have to understand. I had to have that conversation with my oldest son that ain't perfect. You know what I'm saying? It's some stuff that I did that maybe I could have done a different way, but I'm doing it how I know how to do it. And that's why they say all the time the oldest child is usually the most jacked up, because
he took all the L's. He was learning from everybody.
An experimental child, because you're learning, right? So by the time you have multiple children, you should become a better parent as you go. And you have to explain that to them so they can understand, and they still might not understand it. And sadly, when kids go through that stage, they won't understand it, because we didn't understand it when our parents and elder people.
And they were trying to explain it, or somebody was trying to explain it, and we didn't always get it.
We didn't get it until we had our own. You know what I'm saying? And once you have your own and you start to go through some of those same things, then you're like, oh.
Now my aunt used to say that. She was like, y'all ain't gonna get it right until y'all get your own. Like, I'm sure all of our folks told us that you ain't gonna learn it until you have to pay for it. And that's why old folks used to tell us bought experience is the best experience. I don't know about that now, but that bought experience,
goes to what you're saying too, man.
Huh?
That's good that you're picking up. That's what you're saying right now. And I'm curious, did you guys ever go through the process where you had to kind of, with each kid that you had have multiple children, right?
Yes.
I know you do, Benj. Okay, Ken.
Yeah.
So did you ever find out over the time you were having the kids that you had to relearn how to become a father with that new child?
Yeah, child is different.
You can follow the same
structure. Kind of start from square A again, because you know ain't no one size fits all.
Right. I remember having that conversation with my oldest son and my oldest daughter when the baby boy, when Joe came. Everything was different by that time. You get what I'm saying? Like everything, financial. You grew up a little bit. You done learned, and I told my kids, I was like, look, the baby's coming. Most of the attention is gonna have to be on him. And I realized I couldn't train her or treat my daughter this way and then treat the boys that way. And it's a mix up if you're not careful. So you have to apply some sensitivity. That's why I thank God for my aunts, some of my aunts, because they taught a little bit of level of compassion. So that's why I was able to kind of be there for my daughter a little bit more, like understanding her needs. To this day, man, I still remember going to pick up my daughter's pads when that time came. You get what I'm saying? Like I was there, you know what I'm saying? So like those little moments right there. But as you get 10, 12, 15, 18 years in, and then you got a young one, you got to change it up. You got to switch it. You definitely have to.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's true. Each one of them is different, because my oldest son is because he's the oldest, he's more responsible. He's kind of he's more like a little grown man. You know, he just turned 21, but he's always been so responsible,
right,
independent, and you can tell him 5 things and he remembers all 5 things and he does all 5 things. Like he's just different. That's right. Dope. Where my youngest son he's kind of still a baby, right? Like you have to approach it different. So if I give my oldest son some directives and say boom and let him just rock with it, my youngest son, I have to go back and say, hey man, did you follow up on this? Did you do this? It's not to say he's any less, but each child is totally different. Right. So, you know, and we have to remember that, because we can't have this cookie cutter template of this how I'm a parent and this is what's going to happen, because it's not.
It usually doesn't work from what I see.
It don't. I mean,
you have some morals and some values that are like the same, but I mean, for example, this was crazy. My baby boy is allergic to peanuts. right? So as much as I love Reese's peanut butter cups, whatchamacallits, the almond candy, all of that, like I couldn't even really keep it in the house. I had to adjust what I felt like I wanted just to keep it away, because at any moment he could grab candy or I could forget. And I remember times like I gave him a bite of the whatchamacallit and he's allergic to it. I had to take the lad to the hospital. So every experience is different, man. Like and like bro, I'll never forget this moment. And I was a single dad for a while at one point in time too. But I'm in the car, I'm eating a whatchamacallit. We at the CVS, you know what I'm saying, picking up some little stuff. And then my dude in the back, he's like 2, maybe 3 years old. And he just begging for it. And I forgot. And I gave him a little piece. Man, so I seen them little welts come up on his arm. They're like, oh, no, how I'm going to explain this?
Yeah, mama, she about to kill you.
How am I going to explain this right here? So you got to totally adjust. And by that time, I had been married. So it was like, you know, how you going to explain this to the wife? So the adjusting part can be crazy, man, for a dad, especially for dudes like us. Like I said, we didn't learn all this stuff early, you know.
Mm-hmm.
We had a question come in earlier. Do you raise girls and boys different? And I wanted to hold that because now we kind of getting into that,
right?
That you know, you raise different kids different, and raising a boy and raising a girl, two totally different things. Because I have a girl, my baby is my of my three, my youngest is a girl. So
right.
Like after having the boys and it's this 10-year gap in between them, like it's it's different, right? Because
you definitely have some challenges with the daughter.
It's different, you know what I'm saying? Because with the boys, you cut hair, you put some jeans, and you put a t-shirt on, some tennis shoes, and you're good, right? With a little girl, you got to worry about hair bows, accessories, getting her hair done, getting dresses. You know what I'm saying? You got a little socks, you got to go little jewelry, and even in just that surface stuff is just totally different. And then as they get older, their emotions are different.
Exactly. Totally different.
Softer. Yep. You have to be kinder. You know, you just can't say, oh man, that'll be okay, man. You know, you just get up and run off. Nah, you can't do that with a little girl. This is a little different.
And it changes your thought process like crazy.
Yes.
Because you have to be even more balanced, because your responses have to have I can holler at my boy. You get what I'm saying? You don't even want to holler at your daughter. You know what I'm saying? Let alone give her a whooping. Like you're trying to avoid all of that. Like you just become a little softer. So
you're her example of the man that she's probably going to choose when she gets older. So you know, as an adult, you're aware of that. You're aware that she's basing her thought process of what a man is, and the man that she's probably going to go out and date based off of you.
Right.
And that's a scary thought, because it's like, am I doing enough? Am I doing everything that I need to be doing to present an example enough for her to go out and find a man like me? Do I even want her to find a man like me?
Yeah, look, I think I'm dope, but I could be a little. I could be a bit tough. Everything's competitive. I don't know why.
So, Stephen, what do you have girls or boys or both?
Yes, I have 4 girls and 1 boy. So I by the grace of God, I was able to get the balance set a little bit earlier, because when you're dealing with a boy, man, like you're dealing with some you're familiar with, because we're boys, right? I'm saying, and a lot of us grown men, we still struggle with the little boy in us. So sometimes it's easy to identify what we're dealing with as a boy. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when you're dealing with girls, we're not little girls, and we weren't raised by little girls, so we don't understand how they process and how they receive information. So as you both mentioned, actually, balance is necessary, and I got that out the way early. The attitudes, there was so much damn division in the household, bro. clicking up against dad when they didn't do certain things, and it was a lot. My dad used to tell me, he's like, "Well, I don't know how you doing that." Because you're dealing with the mama, which at the time was my ex-wife.
Right.
You're dealing with all the girls and their
Right.
attitudes and their with each other. And then you
Crazy, right?
Yeah, it's
so you understand having to get the bow tie, the hair things, and all of that type of stuff. Did you ever have to take your daughter out for one of those appointments, or have a homegirl hook you up, or what?
Okay, so let's go back to a little bit real quick. When I go back to my childhood, growing up in Compton and watching, like I told you, my parents they was on dope,
right?
But I had a little sister,
right,
and I was responsible for her at a young age,
right.
So I got my experimenting with the hair, the period, teaching her how to put a maxi pad on, all that stuff with her when I was like 13, 14 years old.
Right.
I had to do it because my parents was out there binging. So by the time I had my first daughter, it wasn't unfamiliar territory.
Right.
It was just, okay, now this is not Jan anymore. This is Lauren. This is Brooklyn. This is Aaron. And I got to figure out how each one of them works now, and then make sure that I can complement what the mom is, doing that, where we can balance them out as they get older.
Right. Hey man, yeah, them days, Ken, like you had to buy boats, hair bows, and all of that type of stuff. Still, or what's going on?
Yeah, man. I buy what they do, the headbands, the hair bows.
Right.
If she needs pads or whatever, I'm that dad. Hey, just let me know what you need, because I want to make sure you got everything you need.
Right.
So
that's the provider. That's the provider, right? Right.
Yeah, that's just it. Like, I don't care what it is. She'll ask me for random stuff, and I'll be like, all right, let's go to the store. Let's go make sure we get it. You know what I'm saying? No, don't get the cheap ones. Get the top of the line. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, real, like I whatever the top of the line was is, and then they be like, well, it's not that much difference in it. It's that much difference to me because I don't know no better. So I want the best ones. You know what I'm saying? Whatever the one with the wings, I want those. Get that one.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We go get some headbands. I don't want the dollar store headbands. I want the one with the Nike sign on it. Like, that's me.
Right.
I might not know no better, but I know it's certain things that I want for her, and that's all I want. So I want to make sure she gets the best of whatever she needs, and that's what I hope in her future when she gets married, her husband, he provides for her. I'm not trying to spoil her per se, but I want to set a standard of, okay, don't accept.
Kind of the same. It should. I think fathers should spoil their daughters. I really do believe that. So.
Well, I think they spoil their sons as well too, man. I think it's both ways. Agreed. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say spoil them. I wouldn't term it spoil. I would say, you know what I'm saying, get them the best things and explain to them, hey, these are things that I'm supplying for you. Not everybody has this, but because we can afford this and we can do these things, I'm providing this service for you. Right. So I tell my kids all the time, don't expect you from somebody else, and don't expect me from other people in the world. Because they're not going to treat you the same way.
Exactly.
And nobody's going to treat you like you.
I agree.
Let me ask you guys a question, just real thought, because I was actually about to put up a post probably a few days ago. Benj, you posted something and it triggered the thought, and I was like, that might not be a good thing to put on Facebook, but I was thinking,
I think I know where he's going, but I ain't gonna leave into it. Go ahead.
But I was like thinking to myself, like, after all of these years of raising these kids, man, and for the ones I wasn't there all the time helping to raise them,
right?
I think the worst thing in some cases, now that I'm there, that 4 of them are adults now, young adults, I feel like, and I could be wrong about this, but I feel like the ideology of I'm giving them what I didn't have is actually created an entitlement mentality.
I would agree. To not want them to experience what you experienced type deal. Yeah. And kind of,
I mean, as it pertains to like, material things, not schooling in neighborhood, because you always want to give your kids that foundation.
Right. Yeah.
Of course, spiritual foundation, but like, a lot of the material things, a lot of the extra things, like, I think sometimes, man, like, I just feel like I just wish I wouldn't did that. Because
I can't tell you how to parent, but I would want mine to feel a little bit, not overly entitled, but a little bit. You know what I mean? I want them to reach for some things. You get what I'm saying? I don't want them happy about a Ford Taurus putting around the corner. You get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? I want to,
this guy.
I'm just saying. right? You wouldn't want that in some dynamics in their mind, like they can go get that. Like I think that to a degree is healthy, not totally over top. You know what I'm saying? But I would agree. You know, just a little bit in type.
A little bit.
I mean, you gotta look at it like this. Cliff Huxtable and Clarence Huxtable were a lawyer and a doctor, and they had one car. They had one car. Everybody had what they needed in that house, and they had all that money, but they didn't spoil the kids. They provided a lifestyle for them.
Right.
It was an example. So, like I said, when you give these kids things and when you provide things for them, like everybody has this mentality of, okay, when they turn 16, my child needs a car. That's not the case.
If they ain't responsible enough for it,
your child deserves a car, or your child is responsible enough for a car. That's what needs to be the thought process, not just because they turn 16, give them a car.
Right.
Because I wouldn't at 16. Yeah, if you'd have gave me a car, like, I already know it.
Benjamin ride sideways.
Listen, you know, Negroes don't know how to go get their license anyway. They just be driving anyway. We just be rolling.
See, for me, the dynamic was different because when I was 15, I had a vehicle. So when I turned 16 and I was able to get my license, I drove to work. I got a job and I went to work the first day on my birthday when I was 16, and I drove there. So to drive up to a job
in the ride, see, that's dope. That's dope, though.
And the people that worked there were like, "Wow, did you just really come to work on your birthday when you turn 16 and you're driving? Like, why are you even working if your parents can afford to, give you a new car at 16?"
I need to work.
But that's the thing that I try to impress upon my kids. It's not even about what my parents provided me. It's what can I provide for myself, and that's what I try to instill in them as well. Like, it's certain things we're gonna give you, but all this extra stuff, I'm not gonna give you everything. You gotta work for some stuff.
Right. You gotta work for some of it. I don't want you to feel super, not super over the top, but give them a little bit.
Yeah. So
I want them to reach for something.
So I think it's a couple people mentioning in the comments about the Cosby Show, and we want to talk about like fathering style a little bit. And for some, like Benji mentioned before the show, he got a lot of his fathering style from the Cosby Show, and a lot of people did. A lot of people looked at that as, a lot of people, even though they had parents in the household, they looked at that as the ideal way parent. You know what I'm saying? So what about you guys? Like, where did you learn how to be a father? Where did you draw from when you became a father? Stephen?
The Cosby Show and Family Matters, because when I was a kid, that's really all we had was those black sitcoms and MTV and let's say MTV raps for the most part. But I drew a lot of what I grew up from, and this is gonna sound crazy, man, but it was the polar opposite of what I saw every day in my real life.
Right.
I just told myself I wasn't finna be a crackhead. I told myself I wasn't finna be drunk and dying off of cirrhosis of the liver. Ben's knows, like, I don't even drink because of that.
Right.
I just told myself
put some Chardonnay. He can only cook with the Chardonnay.
Yeah. That's it. Got to burn the alcohol off, bro.
Right.
But I told myself at a very young age I didn't want to be like what I was seeing in my relatives, and even some of my partners I grew up with. Like, they had some really messed up households, man. It was tough in college. You know what I mean? Right. And I was like, I don't want to live like that. I don't want to have roaches. I don't want to be living in the projects. And there ain't no projects in Compton, but I don't want to be living in no low budget apartments. Right. So I told myself, like, I'm gonna find another way. And going to Centennial High School, man, just watching TV, and then drawing off of people like, I'm a name drop real quick. There was a brother. He's my football coach in high school. He was actually the mayor of Linwood at the time. No, mayor of Compton, Omar Bradley. He was one of the first men in my life who showed me what it was like to be a husband, a kid, a mentor, a teacher, run a city, and then still do stuff for other kids. So he was probably one of the first people I saw. And I said, well, damn, this is confirmation. It's like 15 years old. This is what I want to be like.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of where I drew a lot of my fatherhood ideologies from growing up.
Okay, Benji?
Mine growing up, it was a TV, but I grew up in the space where the pimps and was your role models. So I saw that spectrum. So, and the ideas will rub off on you how to do it, but you, like Stephen was saying, if that's not what you want, that's not what you want. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know where that feeling comes from. Got to be from God or something like that. Just don't want to live in that space in life. So there was some cool men around me, but like not like I can't remember any super dope father figures. You know what I mean? We had some in school, you know, but I wasn't really. I was zoned out by that time, man. I wasn't thinking straight at all. But when I came to California, I was blessed to be able to meet two great men, two great ones. Both of them were my mentors. One was my uncle, who was like, he only had like one kid, but he was a hustler, man, legitly. So I saw his grind. So like, and it was a shock coming from Texas out here. Like I'd never seen folks get up, go to work, do this. Like, huh? You get up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to get ready? You and the wife is leaving out the house by 5. Where y'all going? Like the whole concept was weird to me. And it was like, cause I had never had to work. You get what I'm saying? We you know, didn't have to do that. But and that shocked me and it scared me too. But I gleaned enough from it because he was that present type of person. And he was on me like white on rice, bro. Like I'm like sometimes I post clips of him or a couple memories, and he was tough on me. And I didn't receive it then, but I gleaned from it. And then I was fortunate enough to meet another great individual, Ted Thompson. And he was dope, man. You talk about a father, like you respected the man because of what he did, how he went about doing it. And he was just solid to the core. Family, all of that. And that was like, he loved kids that weren't his like they were his. You didn't even know that they weren't his. Humble dude, and you just learn your humility, you learn all of that. And I took from both of them. And then that kind of gave me the help that I needed to kind of become a father. And because both of them dudes. So I was fortunate enough before to have them in a space in my life for a number of years when I left Texas and came to Cali. And that kind of lasted for only a few years. So I had to pick it up quick because my daughter came when I was late 19, 20 years old. She was born in April. So yeah, I had to pick it up quick. And them two dudes helped me, man. But it was far from the Cliff Huxtable though.
And see, for me, I didn't have to look at Cliff Huxtable because I was blessed to be surrounded. Like my grandfathers, my dad, like they were all present and they all had a hand in me. And also my uncles, like everybody around me kind of poured into me. So I saw some great examples of what being a father was. But my dad, my grandfathers on both sides, like they were all military guys. So I think their thing was structure and providing, right? So I had the structure, I was provided for, I had everything I needed, but the only thing that I look back on now and I know that I missed was the ability for a man to show me he loved me, to say he loved me. So I make sure that piece that was missing from my childhood, I try to do it different for my kids, especially my boys, to say, yeah, I do love you, man. Hey man, I love you. You know what I'm saying? Give them a hug, because like my dad and my granddad just didn't have that in them. Right.
They come up in a tough era.
Yeah, so they didn't hug and they didn't show love and things like that way. Their show of love is you got a roof over your head. When you turn that light switch, you got electricity, you got some food in your stomach. I'm providing for you. So that's me showing I love you. But we know from living through that's cool and that's respected and that's what we should have, but we need to do more.
It's more than that. We're more complex. Kids are more complex than that.
Yeah, you got it. Because see, we had this thing of we show our girls love and we hug on them and we tell them we love them. But then when it's a little boy, we like punch them and say, hey, man, be tough. But it's a different dynamic because now we know that you need more than that. And you have to tell these young men you love them too, because a lot of dudes from my generation that grew up and they messed up just simply because nobody ever told them they loved them.
Right. And if you're not fortunate enough, man, whether it be you didn't grow with those parents, if you're not fortunate enough to be around some mentors that can help you out, man, that it's critical for your upbringing. But I know we're talking about the father, but shout out to the women who had to play both roles. But I mean, that's another story.
Right.
No, we don't talk about that today.
We're gonna talk about that today. We're talking about that today. That's just a shout out to the lady. I got a question though, because I just saw this recently, and either one can pick this up. What do you think about the father who wasn't there early on, say first 10 years of the kid's life, 12 years, whatever it may be? And then let's say the kid is 18, 19 now, and the father wants to be a part of that kid's life type role. Y'all know anybody that kind of dealt with that type of situation?
I'm going through it right now. I'm actually that father.
Right.
My son. I don't know if you know the story or not, but he was strategically taken away from me in a sense at a very young age of 20, because I had my first at 19 and my second at 20.
Right.
And he was taken away from me. Now I would see him, every blue moon. And I mean, literally like every 3 or 4 years, because she made it a point to keep him away from me because I had moved on my life and got married. It wasn't chasing her.
Right.
Needless to say, it was a little bit of a strain because, number one, I felt, even though I was raising my other girls here and my other kids and creating my family, I always felt like a loser for not making sure that I could be there with him every single day.
Right.
And with him being my only biological son, I felt like I failed him. So ironically enough, recently, he's actually living here with me now in Dallas. And
sure, it's dope.
We have some sometimes I look at him, man, and I still see where I left off. I see like a little 10-year-old kid in him, sometimes 20 years old.
Right.
And sometimes when I'm teaching him little simple things I just talking to him yesterday about this, like, I'm not the do this, do that, do this. I'm like, I'm gonna lead by example. I'm gonna let you make a conscious decision on what's gonna be right and wrong.
Right.
Because I gotta find where his mother cut off, where I cut off, and then try to fill that hole so he can move forward in his age.
Right.
Because right now, 20-year-old man, 10-year-old mindset, if applicable. I'm not saying that's him, but
yeah, I get the concept. Yeah.
So it's hard, man. It's a complicated thing because you want the best for them, but you also got to make sure that they still are in a place of growing into their adulthood too.
Right. I think everybody needs that.
Role.
I think everybody needs that relationship. I think everybody should leave the door open for a little mending, especially when you talk about father and mother and father and son and things of that nature. So I think that's dope, man. That even no matter what phase, you get what I'm saying? You're more mature now than you would have been 20 years ago. Right. So to me, I think it's the perfect timing. You get what I'm saying? For if you really on your game, you get what I'm saying? Like, and being on your game and making sure your kid is looked out for, and you can, man, you create so many memories, man. You just never know how deep that'll bless you as an individual. So I reason I asked that question is because it was actually a conversation that was going on between some friends, and I thought about that, and I was like, some don't even want that kid to be associated with that father. Mm-hmm. So that's a tough situation to be in.
It is, and just real quick, I just want to throw this out there, man. I remember listening to Drake a couple of years ago, and he was talking about black men and child support, and he was really addressing his father, and he was like, that's the black man story in America.
Right.
And it's a lot of black men that have gone through that in this country as it pertains to fatherhood.
Right.
And it's always, fight, black man, fight harder. And it's like, yo, wait a minute. Why I gotta fight that? The same privilege is natural. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Needless to say, I just thank God that he's we're back in a place where we damn near can play catch up. To be in this kitchen,
and to me that's dope.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Cooking with this dude, showing him how to get up on time and get to work, and showing him responsibility, keeping things clean and structuring himself and understanding feng shui and all that stuff, man, it matters right now. You know what I mean?
That's dope.
That's dope. And being that we kind of in this lane, let's talk about fathering a child at different stages. Because what I mean by that for the audience is, you know, when a child is a baby through 10 and then 10 to 18 and 18 and up, like you have to be a different father at different stages.
That's
because you know the father that you were when that child was 8, and when they get 18, you got to be a different. You got to look at it from a whole nother aspect when they're 18. So let's talk about that, because for me, I think, like I said earlier, 0 to 10, it breeze.
Right.
Outside of the changing the diapers and the staying up late at night, you know, other than that, you know, when they that young and they that small, they don't ask many questions. If they do, they answer questions.
They in your lap, as the old folks would say, right?
Yeah, if you
they
tell
in
them
your lap, right?
do it, you know, and so on and so forth. But when they hit that 10, 11, that preteen stage, then you start to see a little change.
They start growing up. Oh man.
Yeah, you have to be a little bit different. So for y'all, like, what was y'all experiencing, you know, going through those different stages with your children?
You want to take that one first, Steve?
Yeah, I don't mind.
So hit that first.
You know, you go from being more of a parent who delegates and directs when they're younger,
right?
Because of course, you know, the thundering of a man's voice, you ain't got to even whoop your kids when they little in a black household. You got a thick voice. Sometimes you can go, you know what I'm saying, and look at them a certain way and they know what's up. You know
Cut it
what I mean?
all down, right?
Then pain receptors from when they was 4 start pumping. They be like, oh yeah, I remember that popped me up my butt. You know what I mean? But needless to say, what I did learn, Bishop Jakes just taught on this Sunday, man. He was talking about the ability to pivot.
Yeah.
And he, you know, you have to pivot as they go into a young adulthood, because number one, they're not your little baby no more. They not the little, that's my Bookity Woods, that's my little Cakesy Pukas. They not them no more.
Right. And they don't even really want to be called that no more.
Facts. Their idea of and their purpose in their minds are starting to change. They're no longer your children anymore, in a sense, in their minds. Right. They're like, I'm trying to become an adult, and we always be rushing through childhood until we got to start paying bills. Right. So they're becoming adults in your household, and you go from being that delegated director to having to pivot to a consultative parenting style. Right. Where I can say, hey, you got 2 phones here. You got this iPhone and you got the Samsung. Based on what you're doing with your life right now, which one's going to be the better fit for you? Right. If you're 10, you taking this iPhone. This is what you're going to get. You know, you want to learn from it. Right. Now I want you to make your own decisions. I remember Dave Chappelle said that about his dad during the interview he had. He said his dad never put him in a situation where he made him do anything past a certain age. He said, Dave, you have options. You got to do what's best for you, son. And that's the hard thing for me as a parent. I had to learn how to pivot and backtrack a little bit and say, damn, Lauren's at UCLA. She's 18 now. You know, I can't tell her not to be doing this and don't be doing that. I can't do that. I'll be like, hey, Lauren, what do you think the best idea is? You got to rephrase your questioning. Right. You know, you can't just iron fist it no more. You know what I'm saying? Because if not, one, she's going to shut you off and not want to talk to you because you're going to be like, my dad doesn't understand and blah, 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 blah. And you don't want that.
He went with the whole hand thing.
Yeah. You know, so I think you just go, you got to learn how to go into a consultative mindset. Right. If you don't mind me saying so.
No, I think that's dope, because your dynamic is you're dealing with the 4 girls. So I can imagine, you get what I'm saying? For me, having my girl first, then my oldest boy, and then my son, I think like the balance was tricky for me, because I was doing better as my baby boy got older. So it was a little different for me. So I'm trying to, and he's 13. So I'm trying to be grown. I'm trying to be the man, and he looks up to me. And then I have to be a different way to my oldest son. I have to be a different way to my oldest daughter, because now I'm a grandfather. So all of that, man, like it's crazy, but I think we were built to handle it. Like we wouldn't be in it if we didn't. But man, just going back and thinking on it now, man, like you have to really be on a different spectrum with each and every one of them, especially if you have multiple kids. So
I want to throw something in there real quick, Big Ken, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
And I left this part out, and this is really important, because when our kids was little, they would say something pop off when they 7, 8, you'd be like, I ain't your little friends.
Right.
And then I'm finding out now that I technically am their friend.
That's true.
They become adults.
That's true.
Because you're still a parent, but now you have to rely on the foundational principles of friendship to maintain a relationship as they get older.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
No, it does.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, sorry about that, but I just want to throw that in because I totally forgot that part.
No, that's legit.
No, that's a great point, because I'm gonna finish with that and I'll tell you a story. But when the children are small, it's easy. When they preteen, when they get to this point, because I have a 21-year-old now and I have a 17, about to be 18-year-old son, they change. And you said two of the most important things: the pivot part and giving them the options. And I think that's the hardest thing as being a parent in general, father or mother, is giving them the option, but allowing them to make mistakes and watching them make mistakes.
Right.
And, but the beauty is you get a chance to kind of help them through it before they go out into the world with their decision-making ability. You get a chance to help shape their decision-making ability.
Give them a little grace.
Yes, that's it.
Well, give them a little grace.
And see, the beauty of it is, like I said, when you help them, you help shape their decision-making ability. When they get out in the world and they start making their own decisions, you feel more at ease, because you have helped them do that mindset of, okay, making these decisions, you're giving them the options. Yeah, you messed that up, but this is how you can recover from that. Like, you get a chance to do that under your guidance.
Right.
So you feel a little bit more at ease with it. And I know for me, the story I was going to tell is a funny part that Steven said was, being a friend, because, man, let me tell you, it was a point to where me and my dad was nose to nose, bro. Like my fist was balled up. Like I think I was
ready to go at it.
I was 17. I was about 6'1", 6'2". He's 6'2". We nose to nose. I'm like, well, we finna make this happen. Then it dawned on me the fact that he's military trained, and he told me,
he would have broke some.
He showed me all these moves he could do, and I'm like, I probably need to unball my fist and just keep it moving. But the beauty of it is, not even 10 years later, now I have 2 kids of my own at 27 from 17, and I had to sit on the porch of my parents' house talking to my dad, just having a great conversation. And you know what? It dawned on me, Dad, you know what? I apologize. And he looked at me like, what you apologizing for? I said, I apologize because I'm sitting here talking to you now, realizing that, man, you one of my best friends in this world. And 10 years ago, I was acting a fool.
At least you acknowledge yourself. He acknowledged it. That's dope.
Like I now that I had my kids, I understood everything that he was trying to pour into me. I understood it because I had my own now. And I understood the challenges, and I understood the mindset that I needed to have that I didn't have then. So I had to apologize. And it wasn't really for him necessarily, it was for me. For you, because it was like I had to realize, dude, you've grown, but you was acting a doggone fool at 17.
At least he knew not to just swing on you. You get what I'm saying?
Thank God he didn't. Thank God.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm glad you took one.
Bro, your pops is what? Let me guess. Your pops what? In his early 60s, late 60s?
My pops will be 70 next year.
See, he came up. Yeah, he came. Yeah. You glad you didn't catch the fade.
Hey, you know what? That word gonna come up again, which I'll just say grace.
Give him a little grace.
Some grace.
See, I didn't get that. I didn't get that type of chastising until I was 19, 20 years old. Mm-hmm. I got, there was more women around. I had my brother, you know what I'm saying, cousins and stuff like that. But or maybe from school, maybe a teacher, but I didn't receive them that well. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. But that type of chastising, man, I got as later on in life. You get what I'm saying? But my uncle was like, he was pressure, boy. You talk about putting pressure on you to be a man. He was putting pressure, and I was like, I ain't even feeling this. You ever heard of? Well, nowadays it's normal. We hear the preacher cuss, but back then, you know what I'm saying? He would bless your boy out. Don't be doing that lazy. I don't know what. I asked you to plant them roses in the backyard, and I'm like, man, it's a big old house, man. Like,
preacher cousin,
right? So, but that's dope though, man, to be able to, because the saying goes, iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
So to be in that space, to have a pops to do that, you get what I'm saying, to get it, nevertheless, to me, man, it makes us who we are to a degree, but it shapes us. And so I'm happy. I'm happy that it kind of, was raised this way, because I can talk a lot about this,
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, that's the beauty of it, though. Everybody's raised differently. We have different, upbringings. We have different life experiences. But it's great that we have platforms like this where we can come on and kind of talk about it. And I'm pretty sure other people in the audience are like, man, you know what? I can sympathize with that. I went through that. Or, as we talking through things, they're gleaning from it and saying, you know what? Let me try that. Let me approach things, because like what Steven said, that really sticks with me is, asking the kid what they want, right? To a certain point, because we're so used to, like, our parents told us what to do,
right?
And didn't give us an avenue to say, you know what, I want to try that, or I would like to do that. It was, you gonna eat that plate and you gonna go ahead and wash the dishes, and if you don't, you're gonna starve, and that's what it was.
Right.
Or catch these hands.
Well, how about I don't like broccoli? You know what I'm saying? Like, your kid might not like broccoli, and they might have a really good reason for not liking broccoli, but we wasn't taught that. So we were just taught, this is what you do, but that's not conducive to developing a great relationship or rapport with your child, because you have to make them feel like they matter. You know what I'm saying?
The do as I say, what is it? The do as I say, not as I do. Motto,
or dictatorship.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. I mean, I've had to learn that, because even with my own children, I've had to catch myself from not being my dad. You know what I'm saying? Because that's his way of parenting, and that's the way he was brought up. And I have to catch myself and say, you know what? That's not the way I want to parent. So
do it a little different.
It's times where you have to go back to your kids and you know what? Daddy messed up. You know what I'm saying? Daddy didn't approach it the right way. So let me apologize to you, and let me go ahead and say, okay, well, next time this is the way we're going to approach it. You know what I'm saying? Because I do understand you might see it differently. So a lot of parents are feeling like they don't have to explain to their kids, or they don't have to apologize. Yeah, you do. You should.
I would agree. Sometimes you do just need to make that call and apologize. Sometimes it shows maturity. It's a maturation process. Some of our folks, I don't know if they got over their feelings enough to tell us, I'm sorry. I don't think I ever got an apology from.
But you know what? You got to look at the way most of our parents were brought up. Like, they weren't brought up to do that.
Right.
They didn't see that as an example, and they didn't know those things. So, of course, they didn't do them. So I don't blame my mom and my dad for stuff that they didn't do, because now, guess what? I learned, like, kind of like what Steven said, I learned certain things to do that they taught me to do, but I know it's things that they did and I didn't like the way they did it. So I chose not to do that.
Right.
And I chose to approach it differently. So, you know what I'm saying? We have those choices. And as we get older and as we mature, we should be better parents, because we have more knowledge and we have more sight on things now than we did before. So you ain't got no excuse if you out there and you're a terrible parent, or you're a terrible father, especially, because there's so many things that you could be doing. There's so many resources that you have now that can help you out. Like, you got to step your dad game up. That's all.
I would agree. I would agree.
And sometimes it's a matter of being patient too. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, at the time, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, man, I didn't have no $5,000 and $6,000 retainer to go fight for custody for him. Right. If I'm being honest, because I was taking care of a family of 5 already in California. Right. So sometimes you gotta leave it to the Lord, and honestly leave it to God, and allow your child to come back, because they come back, and they really do. And it's crazy, because some of the things they tell you in that over that gap will blow your mind.
Now, I personally believe, because my story is that of, like, the prodigal son, leave, come back, get out of there, go this way, learn something out there, then come back. Like, that's been like my story, so to speak. So I'm the father where I leave that space, leave that room for them to be able to call you, talk to you, because they got to go out and learn themselves too. You get what I'm saying? When they get older, like, they're gonna make some mistakes just like I made some mistakes, and all of that. And you just gotta put it all together, man, and see and still love them and still just be there for them no matter what, and apologize sometimes.
Yep.
Sometimes.
We got a dope question. All right. This lady, I might know her, I may not, but she
Right.
said, do your kids like or trust you enough to bear their heart and show their flaws to you? That's deep.
It is.
Because a lot of kids, especially when they're teenagers, they shy away from the parents. They'll confide in their friends
Facts.
and other family members, and they ain't coming and telling you nothing.
Right.
So you usually hear it secondhand information from somebody else. And from a parenting standpoint, that's frustrating when somebody else comes to tell you something about your child and that child's living under your own roof. And you're like, wow, I didn't even know they felt that way.
Right.
I didn't know, you know what I'm saying, they did that. So have you all had to deal with that at all, where you had, you know, especially with girls, you know what I'm saying, develop a rapport with them where they come and they pour their heart out to you?
I know I had to, for sure. And looking back on it, because I was the stern parent, mine always didn't come to me. And so and we were in that space where it was daddy being the single dad, raising my son and my daughter, that type of thing. And then I will admit I was stern, I was tough, because I kind of had my kids in that whole like biblical space where you're trying to be like the father, you're trying to be all of this wrapped in one. So everything is stern. And if you in the church that some of us came up in, you were very stern. So my kids wouldn't always come and tell me everything, but I was always the one that I would tell them, I'm going to find out anyway. So you might as well, tell me. And they would come and tell me ever so often some things, but not all. They had people who they would confide in probably more than me, because they knew I would give them a straight cut like answer.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? Like, no, I don't think you should do it that way. Because that's kind of how my uncle kind of raised me and taught me to give you the facts, hey, if you do that, or I lived through that, and let me tell you, if you do that, this is going to happen. And so that I always approached it like that. So, and dealing with kids, sometimes they don't even want the absolute truth in all moments. Sometimes they want some leeway to be able to kind of learn and do what they want to do. So kind of balancing that off was kind of weird for me as well. But not always, though. No, they wouldn't come to me. They wouldn't tell me all their flaws. No.
Okay, Stephen, you got girls. You got majority girls. So talk to us about your experience with that.
In regards to the emotional side of it and being able to confide in me, I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, I had my girls up until the time it was like around 10 or 11, maybe 12 at the latest. My problem was because I was still in my mid-30s and I had this mindset that ain't a bunch of little Negroes out here trying to get up in y'all panties, as simple as I was a little boy, and I know little boys won't.
Right.
So where I made my mistake, and I'm honest enough to admit it was a mistake, is I always cut the boy talk short.
Right.
Simple, but I don't want to talk about no little boys. Let's talk about softball. Let's talk about your academics. Let's talk about your little female friends you're dealing with.
Right.
And I found out that as they got a little older, there was two reasons why they wouldn't confide in me in their teenage years. One, it was either fear of rejection, fear of me cutting that conversation short, or sometimes it was embarrassment. Maybe they were embarrassed about something or whatnot. But what I'm learning now is I got an 18 to 22-year-old, the two oldest girls, is that they come to me now with the friendship talk and they confide in me now.
Right.
So at some point it's okay, well, maybe mom's going to have to catch those years where I was a little too stern, a little too just yes and no or black and white.
Right.
She's got to be the lenient one. And their mom's, she's very diplomatic. She don't believe in all of the whooping. I call her a free range parent. But I'm learning now, the girls, they coming back to me. They talking to me. They're throwing their hearts at me. And they're talking about real shit every single day. When I talk to them,
real what I mean? And not having to cut the corners in the conversation with them, I think is dope. But do you think that that's because they see maybe more maturity in you than they saw maybe before, or maybe now they get to see you in a different light and be like, oh, okay, that's my dad. He's dope. He's actually dope. I can actually talk to him.
Well, I was told by my 17-year-old, for example, recently, she just looked at me. She was out here in Dallas with me. this past summer, and we was on the patio just chopping it up about little boys and stuff. And
Right.
in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, all right, let me catch you when I'm catch you slipping. I got you,
Right.
But I'm smiling at her like, no, it's all good. I was like, but here's the thing, if you're gonna be out here doing X, Y, and Z, look, you're not supposed to be doing that. Number one, because I want you to focus on X, Y, and Z, because I see that I don't want you to be what I was at 19. Okay?
Right.
But let's be realistic. Kids are gonna get tattoos. Kids are smoking weed, unfortunately, now at a younger age, and that's not just in the hood. That's in the suburbs, and that's national.
That's everywhere. Right.
Kids are doing things that we were not even taught or allowed to do at their age at this point. And I have to an extent, I have to adjust with the times, but with balance. Because I'm still a Christian man at the end of the day. I still have standards and principles. And at the end of the day, it's like I want to make sure that they understand that, listen, you can't free range your way through life.
You can't.
You have to be disciplined at some point, and you have to be able to confide in somebody at some point, and vice versa. So I think at the end of the day, man, it was a hard transition, but I grew up, as you mentioned. I'm matured.
Right. I think that plays a huge role because your kids can see you. Like I said, your kids are watching you grow too, and as they get older, they start to realize stuff too, because now they got their own mind and their own thoughts and all of this, and they see you in a different light, and they're like, oh, okay. Oh, I can listen to Dad. Dad was saying what he was going to do and what he was about to do and all of that. And I think that makes a difference. I think how we present ourselves to our kids is very, very, very critical.
That's when that tolerance comes into play too, man. Like that's the big thing too, a tolerance.
Right.
It's one thing to be able to accept certain things, and it's another thing to tolerate certain things. And like I said, kids are just they're built differently than when we were their age. So I have to tolerate a little bit more and be a little more understanding. And it stings because I'm going against what I believe in.
I mean, but you got 4 girls. Whew.
Yeah.
Lift both your hands. We need to lay hands on you. we need to get the oil. Get the oil.
Man, let me tell you something, bro.
But it's a blessing though, bro. And I know you didn't mention it, but is it 1 or 2 that play softball?
So my 22-year-old's at Texas Southern right now in her last year. She's focusing on her modeling career. My 18-year-old's at UCLA right now on a softball scholarship, full ride. And I think I just put on Facebook. She just, at the St. Petersburg class did some great things.
I saw the one where she hit the what was it? When she got the RBI.
Got the RBI dub.
That's dope.
The 17-year-old, she's on her way to Washington on a full ride in a couple more months. She just signed her NLI a few months ago. The young one, the 12-year-old, man, she running track right now. She's doing her thing. So yeah, it was just, that's one of the ways I kept them away from boys in a sense, as I implemented side things like sports, musical instrument playing, swimming, things like that.
Right.
So that their time will be occupied with stuff that they needed for life.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they got plenty of time to get boys. I'm cool with that. But we kept them on the dirt, getting to it. You know what I mean?
Right. That's dope. That's dope. That's legit. I love it.
So check this out. We're whittling down these questions. We got a few more. The next 2 questions, I'm gonna ask them at the same time, and you can just kind of talk about them. What's the most difficult part of being a father, and the best part of being a father?
The difficult part.
The most difficult. Start with the most difficult one. Okay, let me go first on this one. Okay, the most difficult part for me has been seeing my flaws through my kids' responses to how I raised them. Like I think when as they've grown up, and like I said, my son is 20, well, he just turned 21, and then I have a 17-year-old about to be 18. When they tell me things that they feel like they missed, it's like it's deep, because it's like I gave everything I knew how to give as a father, but it still wasn't enough, right? Because it's still certain things that I didn't know that they needed. Right. And so I think that's the most difficult part for me, is you can give your all, but there's still something you're missing. So, you have to be aware of that, and you just have to internalize that and take that in that conversation that, okay, I might not have, done this that way. I gave you what I knew how to give you, but I didn't give it to you the way you needed it. You know what I'm saying? So we just have to kind of take that and go with it. And that's been the most difficult part for me. But the best part of it is, you know what I'm saying, seeing their growth, seeing them
Right.
change, seeing them come back and be appreciative of the things that I did do correctly, and
Right.
make me and say, Dad, we appreciate you for, you know, for showing us this, for doing this for us, because now that makes it more, you know, it makes it a little easier for me to transition to my adulthood because I'm prepared.
Right.
Nice.
So, you know, you gotta take the good with the bad, but you know,
That's
I ain't
true.
gonna lie,
That's true.
that constructive criticism of my parenting, it does cut
And,
deep,
and
man.
you can either take it to the heart or be like, whatever.
Nah, you know, I just had to take it. I just had to
Right.
take it on the chin, man.
Right.
You know, and just make sure that, you know, as we go with my youngest son, and especially with my baby girl, that I don't make those same mistakes. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I can rectify those issues through, you know, the other children, to make sure that I don't make those same mistakes again.
Right.
That's it.
I think for me, the most difficult part is I'm the provider type. Like I want my kids to have, like even when I'm gone, I want them to have. So the most difficult part for me is always making sure that the standard I set, I keep. You get what I'm saying? Like I want my kids to have so and so, so and so. Like we talked about that a little bit earlier, the entitlement thing. So I put that pressure on me because that's kind of where the root of me is. Like I want to make sure mines have some. When I'm gone, whatever, while I'm here, whatever. So that becomes difficult because you've set a standard that you gotta always attain, that you always gotta make sure is present, is there. But I would say the best part about it is watching and I say this because earlier it was my son and my daughter, watching them go through their phase, but seeing myself in them, and then seeing my son, even when he's out of my presence, he'll be like, Daddy don't like that. Daddy would wear that, or Daddy would do that. And that imitation alone, man, is like, man, that's me. And seeing yourself in them, especially your boy, you're like, God, dog it. That's me to a T. And you just watching him like, yo, that's my dude right there. Like that's my dude. He acts like me, talks like me, like all of that type of stuff. To see that is like, yo, like that's crazy. So that makes you even more want to just kind of do right by them and make sure that they're good, because like that's you, man. He gonna be you. When he's 40 and you either here or you gone, he's gonna be a Banks boy. And that to me, man, that's dope. That's dope for me.
That's what's up.
Steven?
The most difficult part, man, and this is just me being accountable, because it's not about really the kids, it's about fatherhood.
Right.
The most difficult part was, this is embarrassing to men online, but like having to put these kids through divorce, discord.
Right.
I want to call it conflict resolution now, but when we was in our 20s, we did a lot of arguing.
Yeah.
And I hate that my babies had to see that.
Right.
Now. And I mean, I've been feeling this way for almost 15 years now.
Right.
I hate that they had to see it, but there's a part of me that's like, okay, well, they're going to get to a place, whether it be in a personal or professional relationship, where they're going to have to learn how to either tolerate, accept, or confront whatever it is that's bothering them.
Right.
I don't think me and my ex-wife did it in the most healthy way. There was no physical abuse and nothing like that.
Right.
But there was a lot of discord, man, because it was like we were in a competition with each other. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I was getting money. She was trying to get to the money. She got to the money. I lost the money because the real estate boom went down. And it was just power. It was a power struggle.
Right.
So I hate that I put that through. That was the most difficult part of parenting for me as a father, man, because that's when the kids start taking sides. They start picking mom, dad, and that's a whole nother conversation in itself.
Right.
Now, the best part of it, again, it touches on the most difficult part, which is the resilience that my kids have shown me and their mom through all of this.
Right.
The fact that they still out here kicking ass in life. You know, they have a few little hiccups here and there, but they're still winning.
Right.
And for them to have to go through, and it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't severe to most people, but it was severe to me, because I see, like, one of my kids, we can see the trauma that it left. But the
Right.
fact that she's still killing it the way she is, it's like, damn, how'd you make it through that? You know what I mean? So to see that these kids was raised with a sense of resilience, that they've chosen their own route. They've basically taken the meat from our experience, spit out the fat and the bone, and they just took the core of what they want to keep, and they're winning with it. That's the most precious part for me as a father.
That's dope, man. That's legit. That's legit.
So we got one really good question here, and we talked about this a little bit before the show. But if you could go back and talk to yourself the day you became a father, what would you tell yourself?
Hold on. If I could go back and
to the very day you became a father, what would you tell yourself about being a father? Now that you've been here, like
I was gonna say before then, I was gonna say wear a rubber.
Oh, you wildin'.
My bad. That's why I had to ask that question again.
Yeah, you wildin'. Yeah, let's be clear. Go ahead, Stephen.
If there's one thing I could tell myself, man, from the first day that I found out I was going to be a father, I think I would have went back and said to myself, be a little bit more patient with her mother.
Yeah. Okay.
It wouldn't have even really been much about me. It would have been be more patient and understand with her mother.
Right.
Understand what she's going through and what kind of changes she's incurring, what kind of judgment she's getting from her family, from having a kid out of a wedlock situation, and focus more so on her, not so much just a kid. Because I feel like if you got two parents, whether they together or not, if y'all can just clamp it down, the kid's gonna get the best out of both of y'all.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things I will go back and tell myself as a man. I'm at 19 years old.
Yeah.
Because keeping a baby is one thing, not aborting and having these responsibilities, principles is one thing, but the responsibility of it as time goes on, that's a whole other conversation.
I would tell myself, listen to your uncle, go in the military. At that time, that's what I left Texas for to come here. His goal was to get me into the military. And in the beginning, I was down with it. And then it was like, you know what? I would have, and the reason being is because what I'm enjoying now, I would have been enjoying and retired years upon years ago. You get what I'm saying? More stability. And that's what I craved. So by not doing that, I had to kind of create it on for myself, so to speak, which I would have had to do the same thing anyway. I still would have had to line up and do what was necessary and right. But I would have been, I think I would have been a little bit more disciplined. And I think that's what ultimately my kids, even for me, that's what I needed at the time. Some discipline, some structure. I got it for like a little bit. So I would say that was for me.
And I think for me, the biggest thing is, like I said again, after talking to my oldest son, is one of the main things that I would tell my 20-year-old self is pay more attention to how that child feels.
Right.
You understand? I don't think we pay enough attention to the way our children feel or ask them, how do you feel about this? Like Stephen was saying earlier, like we ask them, we give them a little bit of, question and answer as they get older to see where they are. But even when they small, 3 or 4 years old, okay, you did this. How do you feel? Asking the child, how do they feel, so they can convey those feelings to you as a child. So as they get older, they're more comfortable conveying those feelings.
Right.
Well, you set a precedence for that, for them to be able to share it, and they feel comfortable as a child. And see, I didn't know that. And I would just, as our parents, hey, do this, do this, do this. But how do you feel about that? Like, it sounds strange, at a certain point to even think you asking a 3-year-old how they feel about that.
Right.
Because you're supposed to be just telling them how they feel about it. But no, you should be asking that child, how do you feel about this? Right? You can't go outside today because you got in trouble at school. But how do you feel about that?
Right.
Talk to them, let them talk through their emotions and see. I didn't know any of that.
No, a lot of us did.
Any of that. And that's one thing that I felt like I, as a father, that I really failed to connect with my children on that level of that being open enough to have a conversation with them about their feelings, not just telling them how daddy feels, because they probably don't care at 3, but being able to ask them how they feel and being able to develop that relationship throughout their childhood and into their adulthood, so they can feel like they can come and talk to me anytime because I've already set that precedent. So that's one thing I would tell myself, Ken. Hey, care about how the children feel.
Right. Yeah. That's huge, because they say the psychological way to think when it comes to all of that is it's no longer about you at that moment when you're in that space of relationship. It's now officially about the kid.
Right.
So you brought another person into this world. So no longer can you whine about what you can't get, what you can't do, you got to focus your attention over onto this child, because what you don't do, the child is affected. What you do, the child is affected. So sometimes you just got to take the emotions and the feelings out of it and just be like, you know what? This is kids. So that's what I was, when you mentioned that earlier, Stephen, about wish you was a little bit more patient with the mom. All of that comes into play when you think of it psychologically. So, but we here though, man. Like we brothers, we here, we in our 40s, we making it do what it do, and it's legit, man. It's legit. I love it.
Yes,
so before we get up out of here, Stephen, is there any advice to fathers out there that you want to give before we get up out of here?
You know what, man, if I can give just a couple of brothers out there that are actually on the way to becoming fathers, thinking about becoming fathers, and are active fathers, and even let me just keep it real, even the dudes that are not active.
Right.
Remember that child, man, that child is your seed. That child is a reflection of you in this world and in this time. And the best thing you can do is just figure out a way to be in their life.
Right.
That's the bottom line. To be active. And even when you're not active, be active. I think you mentioned earlier that you can still have a presence without being present. That's huge.
Right.
And also the last piece, and this is kind of off. No, it's not. It's actually in sync. Make sure you choose the right woman to have a kid with. Praise God.
Lift your hands. Lift your hands. That's a lift your hands moment right there, people.
I'm just keep it real. Make sure you choose the right person, man. You know, you can be messing around people, man. I mean, people change, and more. You can be with a person for 10 years and not know who they are, but at least you know the core of their patterns.
Right.
You know, all of that young childhood stuff, man. I wish I could. Sometimes I wish I would have just been patient.
Right.
All right, Benji.
Man, none of us was given a script for this, man. So walk it out. Like, don't give up on it. Like, everybody's situation is different. We all got, as you can tell on this panel, each of us were in different phases. You get what I'm saying? So there's no script for it, but be man enough to walk it out no matter what. It's your responsibility. It's mine. It's ours. You get what I'm saying? Relationships might not be the best with the woman. You get what I'm saying? But at some point, some kind of way, you got to put some effort into making sure, your young ones is good. And that to me, man, is priceless. If you're showing effort, if you out, I don't care, man, if you sending $50 in the mail, $100 in the mail, stamped to your kid or whatever, do something. We're in a new era, we're in a new space where you can actually still kind of be, out there and be present, but make sure you do something for them, man. Don't just leave them out there hanging, man. They need you, especially our Black babies. A lot of us grew up with no love. So don't let that cycle continue, man. Try to break that cycle as much as you can and try to love on them as much as they can, because they got your last name. So
Benji must think this 1995. He said send a letter.
$50.
These kids got Venmo and Cash App. They say go ahead, Dad, Cash App.
These Negroes broke. They don't want the woman to find out. They don't want the woman to find out they making money. Then they don't want to send no Cash App.
I need that Cash App today.
These dudes trying to hide their assets. They ain't trying to. That's a whole other show. That's
Benji sending the mattress money.
I want you to know.
Real quick.
I want you to know what I make now. Let's keep Leave that on the low.
Real quick, I just want to throw something in there, man. You said something that just really triggered something in me, man. And again, it's just my opinion. I feel like too, one of the things I really want to say to brothers out there is that we have an issue in this country, especially as Black men. And I don't think our biggest issues are race and economics and being, kicked out of the situation. I really think our biggest issue is fatherlessness. I really believe that. I believe because at the end of the day, if we had more present fathers and we were more active, we could actually work as a team to get past race and economic issues.
Right.
It's a group theory. So I think that's why both were kind of saying, be present, be active.
Right.
Don't let your kid be fatherless. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Throughout the term of their growing up and their development. Because you don't know, like, I really believe that at the end of the day, kids they evaluate parents 24/7. They watch us. They don't say what they seeing all the time, but they watch us like hawks.
They'll tell you what you did when you didn't even
realize you did it.
You're like, oh, okay.
Okay. So I think that's one of our big things.
Sure.
Present, some way or another.
Sorry
about that, Ken.
No, you good. Somebody commented that a little bit early too. I want to go back to it. Melissa Kennedy said, teach empathy. They may not understand immediately, but they're watching. And that kind of, put me in the mindset of what you just said. They're watching. They're constantly evaluating you. They're the worst supervisor you can have because they're in moments where, other people aren't, and they see the greatest parts of you and they see the worst parts of you.
Right.
So, we have to be aware of that. And, my advice for the fathers out there, along with the advice that's already been given, is, man, get around somebody that's a great father figure, mentor, or somebody else who's doing it at a great level. I mean, of course, you don't see everything that they got going on because there's other stuff that you can't see, but you have to be around some people who have some great knowledge of situations and how to do things. And you can see the fruit from which they've already produced in their older children and the things that they're doing, and you have something to draw from, because starting out from square one, like you said before, there's no manual, there's no instructions for this, and it's a struggle. And we don't have to struggle as much because we have resources that we can use, and we just have to make sure we make good use of that. So find you a mentor, find you a mentor dad, somebody who's a father who's doing it, and glean from that person, because we need that help. And you don't have you don't have to struggle to figure it out when you got people out there that already got some great starting points. So find that person. Y'all already know how we do it. We go around at the end. Steven, I don't know what else you involved in, but you can tell the people how to contact you, how to get in touch with you. Somebody might have saw or heard some of the powerful words that you spoke tonight and want you on a podcast. So how can they get in touch with you?
First things first, man, I want to thank both yourself, Benji, and Ken, for allowing me to be on your platform yet again. It means a lot. It means that you guys value something that's come out of me, mainly Benji, because you know me personally.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
That's the homie right there. You know what I'm saying? We done had some pontification on a couple of occasions. You know what I'm saying? That's my dude right there. So yes, sir.
So the best way to contact me if you guys have any questions or concerns, I'm actually on Instagram at The Great S Carter, spelled as according, THE Great S Carter. I don't post on Instagram much. However, a lot of my big thinking concepts and thought processes actually are posted on Facebook. You can catch me at Stephen, STEPHEN, middle initial R.Carter. If you guys send a friend request, have questions, thoughts, anything like that, or you want to have a general conversation, I'm open to that. But that's where a lot of what I do is posted, because I throw some heavy thoughts on my Facebook posts, not a bunch of ram BS stuff.
Right, for sure.
Oh, dope. Yeah, and y'all, he gonna be back. He already
he gonna be back.
So definitely he gonna be back.
It.
All right, Benji, talk to the folks. I know you got a laundry list of things that you got going on.
Man, it's too much to go on. Link is in the bio. Go check me out. DM me. Pretty soon it'll all be in one spot. Won't have to look for me all over the globe. But we're making things happen, man. So Benji Banks, that's my name. You're going to see it. You might as well get used to me, because I'm going to be around for a while. So link is in the bio. Go holler at your boy.
Nice.
Come, bitch!
Benji, y'all, you know what I'm saying? He chasing that bag. Y'all,
man, we come by any means necessary, but we ain't doing nobody dirty to get it. We're gonna climb properly.
That's a fact. y'all already know y'all can holler at me on Big Ken's Comedy on IG, Big Ken's Comedy on Twitter, Big Ken's Comedy on Facebook. Y'all can holler at the Fire Session Podcast on all social media platforms. Go to YouTube, click that like and subscribe button, follow us on there, because wherever you at in the world, whatever you got going on, you can always get us through YouTube. And you can also go to the Fire Session page on Facebook and on YouTube and look at all our old videos at any time, because you got to get caught up. We on season 4, we on episode 6. We had a lot of episodes. We talked about a lot of stuff and a lot of wild stuff too. So you might want to go back and check out some of the videos and see the growth of the show, because we got the shows that we did from the very, very beginning, and we've grown a lot over that time.
Let the growth begin.
Yeah, so we appreciate y'all tuning in with us each and every week. Y'all know every week we're going to have a different episode. We're going to have a different guest. We're going to have a different interview. We're going to have some different information to give you. So y'all keep tuning in and supporting us. But y'all already know, y'all, we appreciate y'all. We appreciate everything you bring to us. You got any questions, comments, or concerns, just reach out to us and let us know. You got guests you want to see on the show, holler at us. We'll try to get them on, and topics we'll try to get them talked about. But again, we appreciate Mr. Stephen Carter for joining us.
Yes, sir.
Brand, I appreciate my guy as always. And y'all already know it's the Fire Session. Y'all holler at us. Peace.
Solid.
Follow us on all social media platforms. Just search Fire Session Podcast.